My name is Eva Green. I hadn't spoken to my parents in almost 4 years. Then one rainy evening,
My doorbell rang.
by the time I opened the door, they were already driving away. All they left behind was a small wrapped wooden box and one handwritten note. It said only 6 words. Don't open this alone, Eva. My heart started pounding. I called my husband. No answer. So I carried the box inside, locked the front door, and slowly untied the ribbon. The moment I opened the lid, my hands began shaking. Inside was a newborn baby's hospital bracelet, a tiny pink blanket, and a birth certificate. The mother's name was mine, but I had never given birth. Terrified, I dialed 911. 20 minutes later, 2 detectives were standing in my living room. Just then, my husband walked through the front door. The moment he saw the detectives, his face turned completely white. He whispered, "Please don't tell me, they finally found the box." I looked at him in shock, because in that moment, I realized my husband knew exactly what was inside. My name is Eva Green. I lived in Boston, Massachusetts, for 4 years. I had no contact with my parents, not because I hated them, because they had chosen my older brother over me. When I married Noah Green, they refused to attend the wedding. They claimed, "He isn't good enough for our family." So I walked away. I built a new life, and I never looked back. Then, one rainy Thursday evening, everything changed. A black SUV stopped outside my house. I looked through the window. My parents stepped out. Before I could reach the front door, they placed a wrapped wooden box on my porch. My mother looked at me through the glass. She was crying. My father simply whispered, "I'm sorry." Then they drove away. Attached to the box was a handwritten note. "Don't open this alone." I called Noah. No answer. I texted him. Nothing. After 20 minutes, curiosity defeated fear. I carried the box inside, locked every door, and slowly lifted the lid. Inside was a tiny pink baby blanket, a newborn hospital bracelet, several old photographs, and one sealed envelope. The bracelet read, "Baby girl, Eva Green, May 18, 1998. My hands started shaking. I whispered, "I've never had a baby." I opened the envelope. Inside was a faded newspaper clipping. Newborn missing from Boston Memorial Hospital. The date matched my birthday. My heart nearly stopped. Was this some kind of mistake? Or had my entire life been a lie? Terrified, I called 911. Within minutes, 2 Boston detectives arrived. They carefully examined everything inside the box. One detective suddenly froze. He stared at the bracelet, then quietly said, "I remember this case." My heart skipped a beat. What case? He looked directly into my eyes. The baby who disappeared was never found. Before I could ask another question, the front door opened. Noah walked inside. The moment he saw the detectives, his face turned completely pale. He whispered, "Please tell me you didn't open the box." The detectives immediately looked at him. One of them asked, "Mr. Green, how did you know what was inside?" The room fell silent, and for the first time, I realized my husband knew far more than he had ever told me. The room fell silent. Detective Harris looked directly at Noah. "Mr. Green, how did you know what was inside the box?" Noah didn't answer. He simply lowered his head. I stared at him. "Noah, what aren't you telling me?" He closed his eyes, then quietly said, "Because I've seen that bracelet before." My heart nearly stopped. "What?" the detectives immediately asked. When Noah took a deep breath. 10 years ago, while cleaning my late grandfather's attic, I found an old storage box. Inside was a newspaper article about a missing newborn, and the exact same hospital bracelet. I couldn't believe it. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" He whispered, "My grandfather made me promise." he said. Some family secrets destroy lives. Detective Harris looked serious. Where is that box now? Noah swallowed hard. My grandfather burned everything, except one photograph. He slowly pulled out his wallet. Hidden behind an old family picture was a faded photo. The detectives examined it carefully. One of them suddenly froze. This woman, he pointed at the picture, is your mother, Eva. I felt dizzy. My mother, standing beside her, was an elderly man. Detective Harris whispered, that's Richard Lawson, the former security chief at Boston Memorial Hospital, the same hospital where the newborn disappeared. Before anyone could speak, my phone rang. It was my mother, for the first time in 4 years. I answered. She was crying. Eva, please don't trust everything in that box. I asked, Mom, whose baby was that? She became silent, then whispered, not over the phone. Meet us tonight. There are people still alive who would do anything to keep this secret buried. The call suddenly disconnected. At that exact moment, one detective received an emergency message. He looked up at us. His face had turned pale. Someone just broke into your parents' house. They were searching for documents, but they left one message written across the living room wall. He showed us a photo. Spray painted in red letters were the words, "The truth dies with Eva." A chill ran down my spine. The detectives immediately assigned police protection, but I still didn't know why someone believed I was the key to a mystery that had remained unsolved for more than 25 years. That night, the detectives escorted Noah and me to my parents' house. Police cars surrounded the neighborhood. Yellow crime scene tape covered the front yard. My mother ran toward me the moment she saw me. She hugged me tightly. For the first time in years, she wouldn't let go. I'm so sorry, Eva. I should have told you the truth years ago. I gently stepped back. Tell me now. No more lies. My father slowly walked into the living room. He was holding an old leather journal. This belonged to your grandmother. He placed it in my hands. Inside were hospital records, letters, photographs, and one final document. At the top, it read, Confidential Adoption Record. My hands began trembling. I looked at my mother. What is this? She burst into tears. Eva, the woman who gave birth to you, was my younger sister. I couldn't breathe. What? She died during childbirth. And before she passed away, she begged us to raise you as our own daughter. I stared at them in disbelief. So, you've been my parents all my life, but I'm actually your niece? My father nodded. Yes. We wanted you to feel like our daughter. We never wanted you to feel different. Before I could speak, Detective Harris rushed inside. We found fingerprints on the wooden box. Whose are they? He looked directly at me. They belong to Richard Lawson, the former hospital security chief, the same man connected to the missing newborn case. But Richard Lawson died 15 years ago, my father whispered. Detective Harris nodded. Yes, but someone has been hiding his files. Just then, Noah noticed something inside the journal. A folded map. Behind it was a small key taped to the last page. The key had a tiny metal tag. Locker 218. Boston Memorial Hospital. The detectives exchanged nervous looks. Detective Harris quietly said, if that locker still exists, it may contain the evidence this case has been missing for 27 years. The next morning, police obtained a search warrant. We all stood outside the old hospital basement. The rusty locker was still there. Detective Harris slowly inserted the key. The lock clicked open. Inside was another sealed wooden box and one VHS tape labeled, For Eva. The detective carefully lifted the tape, then looked at me. If what's on this tape is what we think it is, it will solve one of Boston's oldest unsolved mysteries. My heart pounded. because I knew whatever was on that tape would change my life forever. The hospital basement was silent. Detective Harris carefully picked up the VHS tape. Everyone stared at it. He looked at me. Eva, are you ready? I wasn't, but I nodded. An old television was brought into the evidence room. The tape began to play. The screen flickered. Then, a young nurse appeared. She looked terrified. She whispered, "If anyone is watching this, my name is Emily Carter. I worked in the maternity ward at Boston Memorial Hospital." She took a deep breath. "I recorded this because I'm afraid I won't live long enough to tell the truth." The room became completely silent. Emily continued. 27 years ago, a wealthy businessman offered hospital staff a fortune to steal a newborn baby. He wanted to cover up a family scandal. I refused, but someone else accepted the money. She held up a photograph. Detective Harris paused the video. The man in the picture was Richard Lawson, the former hospital security chief. The same man connected to every piece of evidence. The tape continued. The baby was rescued before leaving the hospital, but to protect her from the people searching for her, the court secretly approved a confidential adoption. Emily looked into the camera. "If that little girl is watching this one day, I want you to know, you were never abandoned. You were protected." Tears streamed down my face. My mother quietly held my hand. "We promised the court we would never tell anyone. We wanted you to grow up safely. I wasn't your birth mother, but I've loved you every single day." I hugged her tightly. For the first time, I understood. Every secret had been kept out of love, not rejection. Weeks later, the investigation officially closed. The state declared the missing newborn case solved after 27 years. Richard Lawson's role in the crime was finally made public. Emily Carter was honored posthumously for her courage. 1 month later, Noah and I stood outside our home. My parents arrived with another small wooden box. This time, there was no warning, only a handwritten note for new beginnings. Inside were my baby shoes, my first hospital photograph, and a family letter signed to our daughter, Eva. Not our niece. Not our responsibility. Just our daughter. A year later, our first child was born. When the nurse placed my daughter in my arms, I smiled through tears. My mother stood beside me, holding my hand. She whispered, "She's perfect." I looked at my little girl, then at the family surrounding us. The past had been filled with secrets, but my daughter's future would be filled with truth. As I kissed her forehead, I realized something. The greatest gift isn't discovering where you came from. It's realizing you were loved all along, even when you didn't know the whole story.